Cawthorne?
Yeah, Cawthorne.
Cawthorne.
Cawthorne, yeah.
And we were talking a little bit about a poem she put out yesterday on Substack, and they come right out. So I'm going to read it. Okay, Sue?
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. It goes, the plain, simple honoring of being here, just as you are, with nothing else to do. No search or quest required. The trying can stop, as what you are constantly hoping to find one day is here now. Being present always, like looking in a mirror and merging completely with your own reflection, reveling in the truth of the one face shared by all existence, pervading the known and unknown prior to the arising of the many selves and allowing space for our perfect presence to rest in its own immortal, unbroken splendor, silently whispering the untold secret that you are, now and always, everything you thought you ever wanted already, being 100% perfect now, just the way you are. It's over. I love the image you put in there too. It's kind of hard. There we go. That's all better.
Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, it's a lovely image. Just
So
kind of appeared. Yeah.
Let's talk about what is motivating you to put out your poetry, to be on Substack, and just to be.
Okay. Yeah, well, it started when I was about 3 years old, basically, and I used to have feel like so much bliss inside me that I didn't understand it, and I used to dance in a whirly dervish type thing, and go into ecstasy and pass out. And my parents thought I was mad, but they said they couldn't find anything mentally wrong with me, but I was just exuberant. So they just had to deal with it. And then as I got older, I thought, I can't just walk around feeling like this. I'm going to get locked up or something, or, put into, some kind of psychotherapy or something. And I had the brainwave just to write poetry about it. Mm. So I was writing these massive long poems, about age 5 to 7 I started. But when the teachers would look, they go, "Did you write that?" And I put, "Yes, miss." And they go, "Well, where did it come from? Did you read something that told?" I said, "No, I didn't. No, it just was it up here, And that basically is it. I just that poem from yesterday. Mm-hmm. Wake up in the morning, usually the morning, and I have just this thought or idea. Oh wow, I haven't seen the awareness like this in this particular facet. So it's almost like I kind of see facets, like ways that I can communicate being awareness in a way that people can really relate to. Because what drives me mad, I mean, I've met some amazing teachers. This was after I already had the experiences, which I didn't even know what they were. And I'd go to these teachers, but I'd fall asleep because they were talking like what are they saying? It was like the non-beingness of the doingness of the who is the watcher. And I mean, I just was I couldn't, I can analytically and rationally understand what they're saying, but it's a very mental approach. And I think for me, it's much more about the feelings and the essence of it, and how to convey something that we all are. But I think it's very difficult to convey in words that are not, maybe wrapped up in some kind of form to present. Right. So I see my work as a kind of bridge to make it accessible to anybody, kind of thing, really. But that's not why I'm doing it. I just do it because it's just flowing out. And it feeds me to share it, really. It's like a food that it feeds me, but also I can share it as well.
Well,
So
what has really attracted me to connect to you was the fact that you were always there when I put
yeah,
up something that was coming across my Facebook feed from the various Mayor Baba groups I belong to, right? And talk about non-duality. I mean, Mayor Baba was pretty good at conveying this idea that we didn't need to worry about anything, just
mhm,
enjoy the play of creation, his lila, I think he called it.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
talk to
Mhm.
me a little bit about that connection. I mean, today is the 101st anniversary of him declaring that he would begin to be silent on July 10th. So it's timely.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, when I saw that, I felt, you know, all these synchronicities and, magic things. I mean, they've always been like a part of my life too.
right.
And when I was a child, I was very, very popular. I think, like, even though people thought I was a bit crazy writing poems all the time and not doing my lessons, I'd be under the desk writing. Do your maths. No, I want to do poems. So I was like, just like totally in this flow of writing,
Right.
and
Possessed
everything
almost.
else was a blinking nuisance. It was like, I don't want to do geography. I don't want to, it just felt like it was an invasion of my sacred space, if you know what I mean, that I wanted to be in that and nothing else really. So when I was a bit older, I started to see into the future
No,
and became very popular with people who gambled in my like local
it's,
areas.
so you can hit the numbers.
Can you ask her who's going to win the lottery? Who's going to win the Grand National? Who's going to win this football match? And I was like, oh yeah, it's such a body, and it just was there.
Yeah.
And then I kind of like, so I don't know if I want to help people to win money. Maybe that's not so holy and spiritual. and, and then because I think it kind of helped me in a way to be accepted as the strange kid if I had this gift to kind of see things and when I got to the age of 16, um, I'd have like a queue of people outside the door at night after school waiting to come and see me. Predictions and healing and all these like strange things like gifts which I kind of just thought was normal. I didn't like have any kind of think it was, so why are they acting so strange? This is just normal. This is like how things are. But I didn't like kind of, luckily I didn't go on some kind of ego trip or anything, and I
Right.
never charged any money for it or anything. I just thought it was just coming through. It wasn't me doing it in a way. It wasn't like the little me. It
That's what I'm
was
hearing.
the big me. It was the one that we all are. So it kind of changed after that, and I decided to. I met an old man who was friends with Krishnamurti from when they were children, and he
Which
talked to me about. He talked to me about spirit and being, and talked a little bit about awareness. And I said, "Oh, that really feels really correct." And I read a few of Krishnamurti's books and
and here we're
thought,
talking about did
this
you
guy, this guy knows what he's talking about.
right. Right. Here, for those of you who don't know, we're talking about Jiddu Krishnamurti, I believe.
Yes, yeah.
Correct? There are other Krishnamurtis. There's Uji Krishnamurti, who I
Yes,
love.
I know about him. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He makes me laugh. Yeah, the rebel. Yeah.
Right,
Go away!
right.
I don't want any students. Yeah,
Go ahead, though. We'll
yeah.
deviate later.
So that was good because he kind of
Yeah.
like could put it into a context,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean. My family couldn't; they just thought it was a bit bonkers. But he
I
just
just
went,
got this
"Okay, you're not
mail yesterday.
crazy. Yeah, yeah,
This is
right,
the Journal of Theosophy
yeah,
Society. Just
that's
came. So
yeah. Oh,
yes,
really?
you're on the
Yeah,
same way.
yeah. That was cool. So after that,
Mhm.
I just began to meditate a lot, and then I got guidance to go on a retreat.
Okay.
And so basically, I was in like a retreat for 4 years in my 20s.
Mhm.
And the only thing I knew to do was to ask, who am I? So I just asked, who am I, for 4 years.
Right. That's a classic question, right? Who is
And
asking the question?
I don't know.
Right.
It just kept bringing me back to, or everything else but who am I came up, but it was like, I got the feeling it was like being on a train that was actually going nowhere really, because it's here, but it felt like I was on a train, but it was saying you must never get off until you've reached the destination, even though it's very, very tempting to go and find out what's around. You're just going to be distracted. But then I found the train actually hadn't left the station and it hadn't gone anywhere. So it was like, but that was the Leela.
Yeah, the play.
So for 4 years of meditation, of
Okay.
not working, um, I was luckily had enough money to not need to work, and I also had a house that was lent to me to have the retreat. So everything was provided. So that was it. So it wasn't for many years later that what I discovered was that I'd been doing a non-dual retreat, but I didn't know what it was called. I just thought it was who am I meditation.
Well, let's talk about non-duality. What does that mean?
Mhm.
What are we talking about here for those people who don't know?
Well, the official version. Do you want the official?
Whatever you like. Just oh,
I mean, there are many different types of non-duality. Of course, that some people say there's no self. Some people think that, like, there's no body here at all. There's nothing. There's nobody. Um, but for me, I really feel it's a marriage of the two. It's a marriage of the one that we all are in the mirror in the poem, but also there's the aligning of the individual with that knowing, so that life becomes an expression of that, not of the little I, the who am I, not the who am I, the individual split off separate person who thinks they're alone. So
mm,
to me, it's more and more through my life, it's about the merging of and sharing from that place through the body. So the actual human being is a servant of that. They're all one anyway. They're not really separate. So the two are one. That's the Trinity. The
yeah.
two are one. And the third is the child of the two, the expression. Something like that.
I went to Catholic school when I was younger. I remember the sisters explaining that the Trinity was the love, but the Holy Spirit was the love between the Father and the Son.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
yes.
nice image. I love
Beautiful, yeah.
it. And,
Yeah.
so I was exposed to Catholicism, but I was raised a Methodist. And, we do grape juice instead of wine in our services because unfermented grape juice is just fine. You don't need the alcohol. But Methodists are pretty methodical. And my grandfather was big in the Methodist Church in Orange, Virginia, ran the hardware store in a small Virginia town,
Mm.
and was a very patriarchal kind of society, right?
Right.
And now I think what we have with non-duality is the coming together of embracing the divine feminine. I do a
Yeah.
lot of thinking in terms of my anima being Eris, the goddess of chaos, she who is never invited to the party. You know, I just love the energy that comes out of that. And you were talking about the exuberant energy you had as a child that they were like, well, what do we do with her? And then the emerging of the voice that you had to give expression to through your poetry. That's very interesting to me because I like to think about we use all these technology analogies because that's what we're living in, right? The train station, the radio. It's
Mm.
the old phrase you probably heard before that looking for consciousness in the brain is like looking for the
Oh
announcer
yeah,
in the radio.
yeah, yeah.
Up and you're being actually a channel for something that needs to be expressed. out of your livingness, in the body.
That's
I have not
yeah.
seen mind without body yet.
Hmm.
I'm not sure that everything isn't conscious. Maybe there's panpsychism going on here. I don't know. I just know how things seem to me, and I could be wrong, but if I listen to you, I might be able to get more perspective. So, how did you encounter Mayor Baba in all this? Have we gotten there yet?
Oh
Retreat?
well, I'd
Train station?
never heard of Meher Baba, but I'd moved on. I'd done my retreat, and
Huh?
then after my retreat, I went to London. I was guided to go to London,
Okay.
and I was like kind of taken care of by some people who were connected with a guru called Babaji. I don't know if you've heard of Babaji.
Yeah.
Babaji,
Don't
and
know why.
I'd
Tell me more.
I didn't know about any of these people. I was just like, what the hell's going on? And are there any more? There must be some more people like me out there somewhere. I want to find them.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I was at this kind of mind, body, and spirit kind of event, and I bumped into these people, and they invited me back to their place, and I was like, they said, have you been through some kind of a retreat or something? And I said, does it show that much? They said, yeah, you're very ungrounded. So they
Um,
kind of helped me, and they gave me lots of therapies and healing and, nurturing, the body and the soul, really, because I'd been in this retreat so separate from my body, in
mhm.
who am I, that I'd become detached. And I used to look at my body and think, why have I got that? I don't. What the hell is this? Why do I have to have this body? I'm everything, you know. And it was just like I'd spread out into everything, so that like if I had a shower,
Mm.
I'd feel the molecules laughing in the water. I'd become so like connect.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it was, you can never ever tell me now that we're not all one because I've felt it. I've many times. So I was like bubbling, like, and the molecules were laughing with joy as I was having. And I thought, oh, this is amazing. And then I'd hear like music that wasn't there, kind of
Sure.
symphonies,
Sure.
and in the wind and in the bird song, and I was like, oh my gosh, like it was like my senses were so heightened because I wasn't in my like living the mundane life.
Okay.
And so as I came back into my body, it was quite hard. So it's really sensitive. And then basically, I got married not long after, had a baby, and grounded into the world. And it was after that I was going to pick my daughter up from school one day, and I couldn't get to the door. And so I kind of felt very shaky, and I sat down and I just said to my partner, I said, you're going to have to phone Reyes, my daughter's, mother's friend, because I can't get to the school. I've got to get across London. I'm feeling really like strange.
Mm.
And as I went to get the phone, it rang, and she said, "Oh, I just wondered if your daughter could stay with us tonight." It was
Wow.
taken care of.
Very timely.
And
Yeah.
I said, that must be perfect, divine intervention. And I sat down and I said, I need a piece of paper. I have to write something down. And I started writing, and I didn't know what was coming through. And at the bottom, it had M. Baba.
Wow.
And
Great.
he said, I cannot speak. I do not speak, but I can write. And so he started to give me the most amazing messages for myself in my life, for my friends. It
Yeah.
was so accurate. I mean, you couldn't believe it. I mean, it was a very magical period of my life where I travelled to America a couple of times, stayed at his house that belonged to him when he was alive, in different Baba
Little beach.
centres all around America.
Yeah,
I was,
little
and
beach
he was telling
deficit.
me where to go. And I'd give messages from Baba to the people. It was not me give it, but him through, So that was
Fantastic.
a very
So what
interesting
year?
time.
What years are we
Doesn't
talking about?
now. He said he had to leave me and get on with it myself. So
Huh.
he came for a period of time to help to ground me
Yeah.
and support me in kind of anchoring into this dimension, and so it
So,
was. I think what you'd be interested to know.
well, what time period was that exactly? What years?
um,
I'm curious.
Six was in probably like 2000, the
Oh,
early 2000s. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
okay, that's very interesting. So that's
yeah,
fairly recent. I was thinking you must have been maybe in the 40s, 50s, 60s sometime. But Mayor Bob, of course, dropped the body in '69.
yeah,
But that's just dropping the body, right? Because he'll be back in 700 years or so.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Got
yeah.
explained it was every 700 years or so they manifest. The perfect masters call the avatar back. And I found all that very interesting, right? Because I don't know if I told you about my journey there, was encountering at Randolph-Macon College Charles Haynes, who wrote The Awakener. And he was our director of religious life at this small college in Ashland, Virginia. And at the time that I happened to intersect with him, he was our sponsor for Amnesty International and Waging Peace, two organizations that I was drawn into by a young lady who I found interesting, was in my philosophy class. And she suggested I join them. And so I did. And we went out to his house one time and he started telling us all this. He had been in Mayor Baba's physical presence as a child, you know,
Right.
and
Yeah.
he's still around. He's here in D.C. area. I understand involved in the First Amendment Foundation, I think it's called, or something like that. And spiritually active, speaking about Mayor Baba, and found a few YouTube videos of him. I actually haven't connected to him directly, except to exchange a couple of notes, and then just things fall
Mhm.
through, right? And maybe the encounter over there was enough. So it
Yeah.
was all in the back of my head when I was 20, 21, 22. And I went through some very radical kind of experiences at 20. I write about that elsewhere. But I also I found out, of course, a lot about Pete Townsend's involvement in his following.
Yeah.
So, I was
Mhm.
his last concert, I was carrying a copy of The Awakener in my jacket as I sat on the front row at Pete's feet. So listening to him play, because just about everything he's doing is taking that energy from his experience.
Mhm. Mhm.
Here,
We have lightning and thunder outside.
go ahead.
Yeah, we have thunder and lightning.
I love it. Good
Yeah.
timing. You bring that
His
on. Everything is connected.
the opera Tommy was written about Meher Baba. Did you know?
Right.
Yeah,
Precisely.
yeah.
And I
The-
saw that when I was 12, so I was inculcated into it at 12 years old.
okay.
And as that, you know, imagery and the idea that, you know, listening to you, and the idea that there's just one note, pure and easy,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
music you were hearing unbidden. It reminded me of this song that filled the heart of Upasani Maharaj, I think, if I remember right, that drew him to Sai Baba, who then, basically one thing led to another, and they managed to get Mayor Baba down to earth again. So you got grounded again yourself after being out there. Mayor Baba helped you. In
yeah,
2000, you said, about when?
yeah.
When
That's right.
did he
Yeah.
set you on your own
I mean,
path?
he passed on before I'd even heard of him. It was a
Oh,
friend of mine who, like I said, have you heard of anyone called Meher Baba? And she said, well, yeah, but he died a while ago. And I
yeah.
said, really? And she said, why? And I showed her the messages. But he would prove. I mean, if it wasn't him, I mean, I've often thought, was it who else could it have been? Because I'd never heard of him.
There is no one else.
He played in my life. Like he'd say, I want you to go to America, okay,
Yeah.
and then he'd give me clues. He'd go, I want you to go to the Chinese theatre, and he said I used to go hang around there, and so he had these favourite places
Oh,
in
yeah.
Miami Beach, and then he had places in San Francisco and Venice Beach. Was it? It had, what was it called?
Myrtle Beach. Yeah.
Myrtle Beach.
Myrtle
Myrtle
Beach,
Beach.
South
And
Carolina.
then I was in California, and I stayed at a house
Hmm.
that had been bought for him when he was alive. But on the way there, he had a car accident and was in hospital.
Yeah,
So I
Oklahoma.
was staying in his house. So, like, so it was like all these things were guided. I didn't even know about them.
Right,
And
I think that's lovely.
he said, he gave me a message. This is how he worked. So I'd had this like guidance, like from Meher Baba. And I said, how can I find out? How can you prove to me that it's you? And he wrote down, the journey to here begins here. So I typed it in Google and it had Meher Baba. So I just was like, oh God. Okay. And it was underneath, it was on a website that
Right.
was his California center. That was the quote.
Mm,
So I said, I think I better go. It was crazy. The whole thing was guided. Like money would appear from nowhere if I had to go somewhere and things like that. It was incredible.
yeah, there's one thing that about his life that I don't think anybody else has made this connection yet, but I've made it, and that is that on December 11th, 1934, a guy named Bill Wilson was separated from alcohol for the last time at Towns Hospital in New York City. On December 12th, 1934, into New York Harbor steams a ship bearing Mayor Baba. So he was actually in New York City at the time that Bill Wilson has his white light, experience and gets sober, and Alcoholics Anonymous sort of stems from that. Mayor Baba went out and visited with the stars in Hollywood, and he was very
Yeah,
fond of
yeah.
Cole Porter's "Begin the Begin."
Oh, I heard that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I love that because it basically takes you back to a time of tropical splendor, and it's kind of a love song about the
Mm-hmm,
time lost,
mm-hmm,
which was the beginning of everything. And I think that's the way I reflect on it, is that, basically we are all one, right? You've talked
mm-hmm.
about oneness, non-duality, darkness and light too, because when it came to World War II, um, Upasani Maharaj drops the body in 1941, but all of the events of World War II are occurring, and they have to occur, is what Mayor Baba says is spiritually necessary. So it makes you wonder if, what we're experiencing here in the United States and Great Britain,
Mm-hmm.
kind of,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, all this political theater, if it's not all part of that same play, and we should just calm
Mm-hmm.
down a little bit, take a step back, watch the passing show, and say, don't worry, be happy.
Don't worry about it.
Right?
It's like, I think in a way, it's like, what is the best contribution you can make? You know,
What is it?
is it by getting involved? Is it by, for some people, I think there's different ways for different people. Some people want to get involved and get out with the blackguards and, fight for something. Other people just have to hold the space or just honor the bigger picture, and I think we all have different, I don't think there's like one, way. I think there are millions of different ways, and I think that is the beauty, isn't it? That
It is.
there's no one way.
And now we've got this great
Like,
medium by which to hold these conversations as well, of being able to go live on Substack. And
yes,
people
yeah.
are listening to us right now. If anybody's got any questions or anything, they can weigh in. I see that it looks like somebody is fishing for support. I just left it there in the chat. Somebody else just said exuberant. That was the secret ingredient. So we want to acknowledge that you all who are out there listening maybe have comments or want to make any questions to either one of us. Please feel free. I'll be watching that. Now, getting back to, though, one of the things out of Tommy, you mentioned the rock opera Tommy that the Who performed, and that this was really generating, and a lot of Pete's work in this period is coming right out of that space, and probably still is. Beads on One String is a song he released in 2019, um, just before the pandemic hit. But in any case, what I got from Tommy was that main theme that we could get, that becomes the biggest pop moment, where Elton John is playing pinball and singing Pinball Wizard, right? And, I think that, the deaf, dumb, and blind kid that there was a line I believe Mayor Baba said where he was questioned about why we need to petition God, and it was because he plays blind. He doesn't. He's blind and deaf because he plays this game of cause and effect. One thing hits, another thing happens,
Yeah,
and the digit counters fall. And I think that was a beautiful metaphor. I don't even know if Pete really intended it to be speaking about the cause and effect of everything that's happening all the
right.
time, and that it's all being played by a single wizard, as it were. Who are here to perform miracles. I think that's one of the beautiful things too. Miracles are just a distraction. I don't perform any miracles, and I don't even need to speak. I don't even need this alphabet board anymore. I'll just use a gestural language. It was just appealed to me. I think I was about 20. 1983 is when I really came into that.
Okay.
Is that words are not necessary. Music is really our primary way of communication. We were talking about that just before we went live. You were talking about being in Edinburgh, I think.
Mm.
You want to bring that around a little bit? Over to you about Edinburgh. How was that?
Oh, I love Scotland. Yeah, it's magical. Mm.
And what happened then? You were telling me earlier about it, but that was before we
What
went
the
live.
place?
You remember you were talking about how I guess you just wandered into a band or something situation?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was like we came from like a very quiet place,
Uh-huh.
and then suddenly got off the bus, and there's massive bagpipes everywhere, and people from all different countries, and they were all reacting in different ways to these bagpipe players. And lots of people taking photographs and like putting their hands on the heart. So it's like a total kind of party. That just it's going to be different every time, isn't it? Whoever's listening to the because I find that interesting. You can have the same thing happening in different places at different times, but
Mm-hmm.
the surrounding kind of reception of it is always completely different.
That's interesting.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's like what remains the same. It's like that kind of the same. It's never the same, is it? Nothing's ever the same.
Hmm.
Uh,
I wonder if you hadn't stumbled into the Edinburgh tattoo. You said there were people from all over the world there.
no, it was just Edinburgh being exuberant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't
When did that
anything
happen?
like that. No, no.
When did that happen?
That was about a year ago. Yeah.
Okay, great. Because every year they do have something called the Edinburgh tattoo, and a
Yes,
lot of
I've heard.
people
Yeah,
go traveling
yeah,
over there for that because there's so many
yeah.
bands. We're going to have something like it here in DC, Washington Tattoo at the Listener Auditorium
Mm-hmm.
by mid-July. They'll be doing that for the 250th anniversary of our country. It's a
Wow.
bizarre time to be in America, I tell you what. But then again, I think being alive, period, is kind of a bizarre experience. We're thrown into this world,
Yeah.
unbidden into the hands of other primates who have questionable skills in handling infants, and we're totally helpless at that
Mm.
stage. But we are carried through it, and we end up here talking to each other about the experiences we have. So your experiences, though, of finding these
Lightning.
and then more lightning, yeah, maybe it's going to
Yeah.
knock you flying. I'd like to hear more about that. I think that you were. How old were you when you first started doing the poetry? Was it what, from infancy?
About five, about maybe five. God.
Wow, that's great. I love that wonder. By the way, where in England are you right now?
I'm in Yorkshire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not too far from Scotland. Yeah.
So we can probably go on the weather maps and see that storm crossing Yorkshire.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been down south. London and the southwest had it for a few days, and now it's decided to come up here.
Yeah,
So, yeah. But I like it. It's very exciting, isn't it? Electrifying. It's good.
yeah, brilliant. And so, what's your experience in Substack been like? I know that you are a supporter of this woman in, I believe, the Netherlands, who's written a book. What was it called? Um, on
Oh, the no self, is
non-duality,
it? Seeing no self.
seeing no self. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you read it yet?
No.
Neither have I.
I don't really read. I don't really read books because I
You
kind
like
of find I find it. I don't know. It's just like a mental thing, you know. It's
yeah.
a yeah. The mind, you know. And although I mean, I did actually about 10 years ago now, and I met this amazing guy who was an ex-Tibetan Lama, and he was doing a course on how to communicate non-dual awareness.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I went on this like workshop,
Huh?
but I ended up teaching on it. So like, God. He said to me, what are you doing on this course?" And I said, "Well, I think I don't really want to learn anything, but I would like to know how I can communicate it." And I did share my first book that I wrote called User Beloved the One. And he read that and he just said, "What the heck are you doing on this course? Um,
Right.
why aren't you sharing this stuff?" And I said, "Because I got scared. I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I was good enough. And because I hadn't got a name to call it, like non duality or awareness or anything like this, I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
I just thought it was what I had to say." So he said, "Well, no, you're doing non-dual work," and he supported me to start to teach, which I did, and I did about 100 classes,
Uh-huh.
and then I stopped. So,
Because what did you
so
stop?
right, I've done that now. I've done it. I don't need to be a teacher.
It's enough.
It's like I didn't want to get attached to being a teacher, really, or
The role.
identifying in that role. It felt yeah. So that's why I started to write again. I thought I want to be able to just share what I have to say, and people can do whatever they want with it, really. But
Oh,
I
right.
found the teacher role for me felt like a cage. I felt like I had to always be non-dual, or it kind of
Perform.
took my humanness from me in a way. I can see that people can get stuck in a role, and then they have to start being careful about how they look, how they live, and they've got to keep the image up, you know. And I can't do that. I can't. It's too hard.
I get
I
that.
just want to be myself, you know. Mm.
And what is that? What is the self that you are?
What is it? Which
Yeah.
one?
Well, right.
Which one? The real
The real Sue.
the real self. Well, it's
The
all
real,
of you, isn't it? It's
well, I
all of
don't
you.
know. I think of myself as this imp that is carried around an animal that bears the label Harold Bledsoe Gill III. It's ridiculous. I remember I had this friend in Pittsburgh when I was in graduate school there. I'd gone back for my master's in German, of all things, and we were encouraged to observe other teaching assistants. So I decided to observe this Italian girl who was very interesting to me, and she taught, and we got to be friends. And she said, I find you preposterous,"
God.
and I love that.
Right.
I am preposterous, and yeah, so I am. So was she. And it was total chaos. Putting us together was like putting two very volatile elements together, and it was explosive. It was a lot of fun, but it was not something that could last. So we went apart. We came back together 10 years later. Went apart again. Um, it's interesting to watch that whole dance of
Cycle.
through my life. I was
Mhm.
writing about it earlier today, and I didn't write about this, but I may soon, and I have written about it in the past. In 2016, I heard tell that there was going to be an 80th birthday party for Wavy Gravy over in Philadelphia, which is not far from DC, so I could go up to that East Coast edition of his birthday. And that was a lot of fun. I had a good time doing it. And so he's kind of become my guru. You were talking about nothing and no one. And he had this whole campaign starting, I think, in 1972 and then running on, and I think even 68, I forget. But he started it and kept running it every year. We'd have a presidential election of nobody for president. Nobody should have that much power. Nobody better apple pie than mom. Nobody is perfect. Nobody is in Washington working for you. Nobody cares for the poor. And that's just becoming nobody. Nothing is where we're all headed anyway. Eventually, we're all going to leave the stage. Or our masks will go back on the shelf. Somebody else will pick them up.
Yeah.
And so Wavy has just turned 90, actually, on May 15th, and they had a nice thing for him out in San Francisco. A friend of mine was out there, got me a little bookmark of the ticket. He laminated the ticket for me. And I do what I can to try to support the work that he's been doing. Wavy used to be called Hugh Romney, and if you ever saw the movie Woodstock about the 1969
Okay.
festival,
Yep.
he was the
Yep.
guy who got up on the microphone and said, "What we have in mind is breakfast in bed for 400,000. Try to keep hippies from getting out in the mud, and churning it all up. They were going to bring them granola and stuff out to wherever they were. Anyway, I found it to be really uplifting to be in his presence because he's still living that ethos, and he's got a bunch of people who are sort of like in that same tribe, trying to not just to love everybody, just the way. And so another intersection was when I was living in Pittsburgh. I was literally living in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. Have you ever heard of Fred Rogers? He was a very big noise in the children's television section of PBS that was here in the United States. And his whole ethos was, "I like you just the way you are," he would tell the children on his Mr. Rogers' neighborhood television show. So I try to stick with that, liking everybody just the way they are, being slow to judge. Because I think one of our biggest problems these days, if you ask my opinion about the thing, not that you asked for it, but I'll give it anyway, is that we judge so much. I don't know. I just things seem to me, and I could be wrong. So if everybody would adopt that kind of attitude, be a little more open-minded, being a little more receptive of people as they are, and some people just won't fit into the boxes. So that's what I'm hearing from you, actually, is that you had a hard time fitting into the box, right? When you were a kid. But then you got this help that just came unbidden, it sounds like. You sat down to write and you got the signature back, Mbaba.
Who I'd never heard of. Yeah. I was really upset that he died. I was like, oh gosh, I wish I could, if he'd have still been alive, I'd have been there straight away, But you know what he did? He sent me somebody through, because I was actually in music myself. That's another life that I had. And I was working. That's where I met Terence McKenna. And I was working in, I moved to Glastonbury. After I'd been, I moved to Glastonbury, and then I met somebody called Fraser Clark, who was working in something called Megatropolis. Don't know if you've heard of that in London. And it was very hippie, and these guys that were running it were from way back from the 70s or something, and they were like, kind of like still kind of visionary and having all kinds of, they had like a kind of chill out lounge, and every week they had people like Rupert Sheldrake, Terence McKenna, and different boffins, that would come and give a talk to these kids. And then it was like a hippie festival downstairs with like tarot cards and all kinds of weird paraphernalia, and so it was like a festival atmosphere. And they said to me, Terence McKenna is coming to give a talk, and I said, "Who's that?" So, so at my little band, well, not my band, but our band, playing all kinds of like tribal music, and then kind of had Celtic harp, Native American didgeridoo. We had like a whole range of kind of different, tribal music, and the kids loved it. And Terence was like, joining in, and then he was like, had this amazing talk, and was just like, I think he was completely blasted during the whole talk. He was off his trolley, I think. I don't know what on, but he was just sitting there, like, and I think he was in like a cage, like a kind of chair that looked like a cage, and talking. Like, I was like, oh my god, this guy's like totally turned on to something. But
Well, they're just
he was
wonderful.
like another planet.
Yeah, I listen to his talks on YouTube all the time when I'm sleeping.
Good idea, yeah.
Yeah,
But he just could
what a
see
guy.
that things that we couldn't. He was just so awake.
Well, those machine elves will get you. I don't know if you've had it. You know,
The what?
the machine elves.
Okay.
Am I coming through okay? It sounds like you're having a
Yes.
hard time hearing me. Okay, but machine elves were these things that he encountered on his DMT experience.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It would
yeah.
be like, "Oh, we're so glad you're here. Here, look at this." And they were little twirling little machine elves, he called them. There's
Hmm.
a type of intelligence back there that really wants us to know about them, but we have to
Hmm.
tune into them by getting this chemical going in our brains at levels that are higher than natural. Um, DMT is there all the time, apparently, in our brains.
Yes.
So I was interested in finding out about that. Now, actually, in a couple of days, I think I'll be tuning in to Stanislav Grof's 95th birthday.
Hmm.
Are you familiar with Grof?
Hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, Terence McKenna came into your life. So you were just listening to him sitting in his
Yeah,
cage-like chair,
that's,
right?
yeah.
And
And
did you?
then I did the big mistake, which was to be invited back
Oh,
to, an after party with Terence
why was that a
McKenna,
mistake?
and I didn't go.
Oh, you didn't go.
Oh.
Oh, that's the mistake. You didn't go.
It's a bit daft, isn't it? Yeah, I was like regretted it afterwards. Yeah,
I don't
and
know.
they said he was talking all night, and people were like having amazing telepathic connections, and it sounded like an awareness party.
Yeah.
It was like it sounded like, oh gosh, had to get back on the tube. You know, get the last tube. I missed. Terence McKenna. I was like,
It's kind of like missing Mayor Baba, I suppose, in some ways.
yeah,
Pete Townsend also never met him.
yeah, yeah.
They were close, and apparently he heard that Mayor Baba had heard his music and recognized him as one of Mayor Baba's. So
Oh.
that's kind of a nice idea, but I don't know. I'd love to talk to Pete Townsend about it sometime if I ever got a chance. Maybe it'll happen. Who knows? What's nice about the internet right now and Substack and things like this is we can make connection and meet on equal footing with people
Mhm.
you never encounter otherwise. And you make
Yes. Yeah. Hmm.
So I was actually writing a lot about that today, about some events that happened in 2012. And yeah, I'll just leave that for people to read if they feel like it. I've even forgotten what I called it already. I make up my titles as I go, and then I start writing, and I'm like, why did I title it that? And what's interesting about writing, too, and maybe you find this to be true also, is that
Hmm.
I start to type, and I think I know where I'm going, but my
Yeah.
fingers are somewhere
Yeah.
entirely different.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
How many of us are there in here trying to express themselves? I don't know.
Hmm.
So
Well,
anyway,
that's it. You're not just one. That's the other thing. It's like how many of you are there really, or of me? How many different aspects? It's like a whole universe, isn't it? Really,
you were talking about that earlier, right?
the universe within you. Yeah. Mm. That was something that Terence was talking about that night. multiple universes. He said something about he was looking at a bit of sweat on his finger or something, and then he went into it and he saw all the like creation. He just was like, I could relate to him. I could relate, but
Well,
I've
actually,
never
your
had drugs,
shower,
so I don't. Mm.
your shower with the molecules singing to you, right? It's very
Yeah,
similar.
I couldn't have drugs. I did try. I think I tried acid once, and it was only a quarter of a tab, and it lasted for 2 weeks. And I said it's not as good as normal. It's a bit. I could see like weird colours and rainbows, but it looked artificial.
It is artificial.
I did, yeah. I could feel the artificialness, and I said, no, I'd rather have just my own experience, to be honest. Um,
Mhm.
and I often thought when I was on my retreat and experiencing very different states, and I thought, I wonder how people could experience this in like a safe way without having to go on a retreat, without having to take drugs which harm them. What ways, that's always been something that I've been interested in. How can you capture something and then share it with somebody who can have that experience in a safe way, in a grounded way, and not on drugs, not on having to have a bad experience to get it, or you know, to kind of normalize it, if you know what I mean, to make it more part of this world and not this other. It's like a split.
It's a good point. And
Yeah.
Stanislav Grof seems to be along those lines with his
Mhm.
holotropic breath work, which is not
Okay.
drug induced. It's all about breathing.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Breathe, that
yeah.
is it, right? Breath is the Latin
Mm-hmm.
word spiritus, right? So
Mm-hmm.
spirituality, if you're breathing, you're having a spiritual experience. Want to test my theory? Hold your breath. How long spirit and body stay together? At any given moment, I'm 2 minutes from death if I don't breathe. So,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I do right now is I work as front of house staff in a cafe down on the corner of Q in Connecticut here in Washington, D.C. And I'm at the register, basically ringing up people's food and coffee or whatever. And they come up to me sometimes and say, "How you doing?" I say, "I'm still breathing." The whole trick is keep breathing as long as possible. Now, how can I help you? Another one is keep breathing and step over the bodies because other people are stopping breathing all the time. We're,
Mm-hmm.
we're very temporary flashes on the surface of humanity, I like to say.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
we,
that's it. It's temporary. Yeah, yeah.
it's like watching the fountains. We
Mm-hmm.
emerge and then we descend, and it's all the same thing. We're
Mm-hmm.
just cycling through the fountain of life, right? And we, we're having a good time. We're on the ride, and that exuberance you were talking about. To be able to maintain that exuberance is something I'm not really good at. Actually, I'll just collapse at times, and then
Okay.
I think it's actually I've watched that ebb and flow of going through these cycles, and I've likened it to going to a coaster park, right? You get on a
That's
roller
right.
coaster.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes you're in a tight turn and it's really intense. Other times you're just going crank, 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 crank to get up to the next level.
That's right. And sometimes you think, well, I've got it sorted now. I'm nice and like balanced, and got my life. And then something just totally blindsides you, and you're like, you know.
And for Baba lovers, they tend to think of that as another, well, Wavy Gravy puts it this way: he says another cosmic pie in the face.
Yeah, yeah. I even met Baba, even arranged, because I was saying it's Baba because it was so around the time that these messages were coming through, which was only a couple of years, to be honest. But
Okay.
the accuracy of the messages blew people's brains out because no medium or psychic could be that good, I tell you. I even met a lady who came to me for guidance, and she was Pete Townsend's manager
Hmm.
way back. And I don't know where she is now, but she if I get hold of her, I'll definitely give you connect you two guys up because she knows Pete and all the stuff that was going on around there, Baba.
Yeah, that was
I
lovely
don't,
because
I don't know if she's still alive. She went to Morocco with her boyfriend, and no one heard of her after that. So we're not sure where she is. And I don't know whether she wanted to disappear on purpose. She's a very, very aware woman, and she had visited Meher Baba, you know, and been with Pete, like helping him. I mean, this was like years ago,
sure.
and she, I knew her at the time. I started to give messages from Baba, but then after that she disappeared. So she told me all about. She was the one who told me who Meher Baba was, and a link with the Who, and I even went to his house, Pete Townsend's house.
Mhm.
Baba told me to go, and I said I can't find it, Baba, and he said just get outside of your car, walk across the road, and it had, because it's got a special name, Pete Townsend's house. That is named. It's named after Baba. It's called Oceanic.
Oh yeah, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep,
hmm
lovely.
Yeah.
There's
If she comes back, maybe she will. Maybe it's coming back. I will definitely put her in touch with you.
well, that'd be
She,
fine. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
she
I'll
would be
talk
my.
to anybody. And what's interesting to me is that
Well,
I do sort of have these intersections. So there's Baba, there's G.I. Gurdjieff. Are you familiar with the Gurdjieff work in the Fourth Way?
I did read a little bit about that. Yeah, kind of.
And that's
Yeah,
connected back.
skimmed through them. I mean, haven't studied any of it really. I've just skimmed like a menu. I've had a look at the menu, but I've not really eaten the meal.
I love it. Well, you don't
because
have to. You can do what you
because you know why? I've never really wanted outside information, and that was why I went on the retreat, because I
want your
I
own
wanted to know for
experience.
myself. Yeah,
You want to
and I
live it.
said, don't tell me, don't. Krishnamurti friend, he'd be like giving me Sanskrit and the Vedas, and I'd said, look, it's all very interesting, but I want to know who I am. I don't want to know who they think they are. I want to know who I am. And that's why I did the Who Am I retreat, because I didn't want to be influenced by anyone, so that I couldn't like imagine that I was having an experience. I wanted it to be fresh, raw.
Individual.
And when I work with people, when I did my 100 workshops, I didn't talk at the people and say, right, no, this is non duality and this is that and this. No, what I did was to help them to have their own experience in the workshop
But
of non duality, to have
that's what
their own experience.
we've got to
Yeah.
have that lived experience. I was telling people earlier today, I see
For
that wet paint.
themselves, not for me, but for themselves, yeah. Mm.
I see that wet paint sign. I've got to touch it
The
and have
what?
experience. If I
Wet
see a
paint?
wet paint
Yeah, yeah,
sign,
yeah.
I've
Yeah,
got to
yeah,
touch it. I've got to have
yeah.
my lived experience of the wetness of that paint.
Yeah.
I can't take your
Yeah.
word for it. I've
Mhm.
got to have my own experience.
That's
And
right.
I can use words till the cows come home, but words, that's the thing, right? They're
Mm,
We've been given enough words. Now
mm,
it's time for action.
mhm,
And that's
mhm,
one of my favorite tunes actually by Pete is Let's See Action, which also has the subtitle Nothing is Everything or Everything is Nothing. I forget which.
mhm.
Both are. Both and, not either or. It's non-dual. And I just love that. There's another thing, Ronnie Lane. Are you familiar with Ronnie Lane?
Well, you won't believe this, but I used to live in Ronnie Lane's ex-girlfriend's flat in London.
Okay, very good. So you do.
But I don't
All
know
right.
Ronnie Lane. They'd split up by that point.
Of course. And you ended up in Colorado, I think, in the final days. But
Mhm, mhm,
yeah, I was picked up the DVD, The Passing Show, The Life and Times of Ronnie Lane,
mhm,
just like a couple of days ago and was watching it again. I'd seen it before it had passed by, as The Passing Show tends to do. And that's where I get my name for my little thing that I do regularly, which is I go out on the streets of DC and I just point the camera outwards on my phone and I talk about whatever I'm seeing. It bounces along and makes
yeah.
people sick, but I don't care. I'm just putting down what I see is the passing show in front of me. and looking at all the people moving around. One of the things about the Gurdjieff work is being awake and aware, being
Mm.
present in the body, knowing
Mhm.
what you are doing, paying attention to all of the different things that are happening in order to be present and awake and aware, because mostly we're robotic.
Yeah.
You know, there's another book, Gary Lachman's book is called Beyond the Robot. Do I have it handy? Probably do. I mean, I've got stacks of books all over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one called out to me.
Okay.
Life and Times of Colin Wilson, who wrote The Outsider in
Oh,
1956.
Colin Wilson, yeah, that's a long time when I used to be interested in like the Society for Psychical Research,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that was a very interesting period as well. But Colin Wilson was very much a kind of, must read person at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have a hard time finding his books, but I did get a copy of The Outsider by asking at Lost City Books over in Adams Morgan here in DC. Now I've got to remember to read this one, Words Without Music by Philip Glass.
All right, yeah, Philip
You're
Glass,
familiar with Philip
composer.
Glass' work?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He did one of the best things I've ever seen in terms of expressing what consciousness is like. And Les Enfants Terribles, taking a John Cocteau thing and making a little ballet out of it. There were one singer and three or two dancers, I think, two dancers and one singer for each part in the ballet. So while the person was singing his part, you saw these two dancers doing other things that he could have been doing at the same time. It's like they were always aware of there are other choices, there are other things, other roles I could be playing. And so that was a experience I had in 1997. I'll write about that some other time. I probably already have. I've been writing a lot just to sort of get it
Mhm.
out of me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I
Hmm.
have it somewhere, and then maybe I can work with it later to actually craft it into something more coherent. Because I find a lot of times that what happens when I'm trying to type and I don't edit myself,
Hmm.
I won't edit this, for instance, when we put it out there, um, is I know I go different directions than I mean to. And words that I wasn't really thinking were going to. And it's probably because I am picking up, influences and all influence. Familiar with Oscar Wilde's picture of Dorian Gray.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And
Hmm.
there's a thing there where there's a little clip from a movie I saw embedded in another movie called What,
Right.
and it is about how all influence is necessarily del- deleterious to us because we suddenly have thoughts that are not our own. We don't have that immediate lived experience you were talking about, where you're willing to read the menu of the restaurant, but you want to have your lived experience of it without having been influenced by reading the Vedas or reading the whatever, on and on. I think that's one of the reasons I love Harrowings is the idea we're scratching the surface. We're sort of skimming along and picking up little things like, oh, did you see that? What about this?
Mm-hmm.
On it goes. But with the Ronnie Lane thing, the passing show where he just decided he would take out his, little circus tent and go in a caravan traveling around, actually with lion tamers and fire
Oh,
eaters.
God. No wonder his partner left him. Yeah, I think it was too much.
Right. It was very,
She said he went off the track. She said she was American. She went, he went off the track, Ronnie.
yep, it left the tracks. And, I don't know. I just know how things seem to me. And it's easy to judge.
Mm.
Everybody's got their
Yeah, you can never really know, can you? From what, because you're only seeing the outside. And even if you think, oh, well, this is what they said, they might, where were they when they said that? They may have been saying it for a particular reason or to misguide you. So it's like, unless somebody's being like really, really honest and you can feel that, how can you trust what anyone says? Do you know
yeah,
what I mean? You've got, it's not that they're deliberately misleading you, but it's like, how honest are people being, are we with ourselves,
What disturbs me is certainty.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When somebody seems to be very, very certain of something, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
makes me
Mm-hmm.
sad.
It's
So
probably not right. Yeah.
I
Or
also
they're
used to
like
teach.
fiercely defending. Then I get, okay.
Yeah, I
Whereas it's
also
a position. It's like taking a position and like then defending it. It's like,
king of the
and then
hill.
if you poke it, it just makes me want to poke it. Like, do you know what I mean? And like annoys them to kind of then maybe open up a bit more, and actually encompass more of what's real and not one point.
Mm.
When you think how many points of view we can have, and the ones we pick, and then everything that we see is through that point of view, isn't it? It's like the tiny aperture that we
Yes,
see. Yeah.
broaden the aperture. I like that idea.
Yeah, I see it looking like a little crack in the door. Like, that's how we, in a way, how we see life.
It's the
And I
truth.
think that's why I don't want to get into kind of a role of anything. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Not to be a poet or a teacher but it's very hard because whatever form like people might say, oh, he's a talker, or he's not a speaker, a talker, because he's engaging and getting people to open up and share, which is a facilitator. So you're facilitating an exchange of different ideas and cultures and many different levels that you're operating on all at the same time. So you remind me of someone dancing with a lot of plates, kind of, and
Watch the plate and watch me. Watch
managing
the
not to
plate.
drop any. It's
Right.
very
It's
impressive.
like
Yeah, it's good. It's
I
good.
often liked to just be in the shadows on the periphery of things, be on the edge of it, maybe be able to do a little bit of something with what I've got to help
Mm,
somebody else.
mm,
Spotlight.
Yeah, but it's what you are. I'm seeing what you are in yourself as well as like your expression. You may not kind of because you're inside it, but from another person seeing you, it's like I can see a lot of vitality and expression there and communication skills. So you've got like good, a good set of equipment there, really. That you're putting used to. So
Well, one of the
yeah.
things that springs to mind is this song Pepper by the Butthole Surfers that's covered by this young lady named Karina Reichman, who's a bass guitarist, and she's quite good. She
Mhm.
released a new album. What was it called? Late Checkout, I think. Anyway, one of the things when she's covering this song is the line is, "You never know just how you look through other people's eyes."
Very good.
And I love it because it just nails the whole issue of I'm
Mhm.
just here, right? People can project onto the space I occupy all kinds of things, but I'm this imp. I know I'm an imp. Down inside, I'm just playing. I'm having a good time a lot of the time, even when I'm not. I tell my wife sometimes, Lynn, she gets the butt end of me quite a bit because the thing is, I'm not very serious about anything, but I'm never happier than when I'm wired up about something, when I've got my fingers in a twist, so to speak, about some issue. And I start to get myself all riled up. I'm never happier than when I'm unhappy. And this ties back to Mayor Baba's guru, Apasni Maharaj, who said something to the effect of, and I'm sure I'm butchering it. He said, I tell everybody who comes to me they should not mind pain. Because if you bear your pain with pleasure, you'll have lots of pleasure.
Right. That's
It was a
ironic. Yeah.
revelation.
Mm.
So I don't know. I
Well,
just know,
that's the polarity in everything, isn't it? Really. Yeah.
and it's all just theater. It's a it's Maya, right? It's an illusion that's been spun out by the one. And I like to go to Gnosticism. I don't know how deeply into
Hmm. Hmm.
That,
Okay.
the monad is totally aloof to all of this, but the manifestation of the monad may be Meher Baba, as near as I can tell.
Mhm.
And then there's the pleroma, the fullness that emanates from that, out of which everything that appears to be emerges, and back into which everything falls.
Absorption.
Rise, fall, very agricultural, right? And again, if you look at my little hippie thing back here, I actually got that tapestry there um, as a auction item to support the hate free clinic in San Francisco, which is like Haight and Asbury, where all the hippies were in the summer of love, 67. Anyway, um, so I did that sometime during the pandemic. I think they were having some fundraiser. Nancy Pelosi was speaking. She's San Francisco representative.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I got to tune into these things. I got to connect to that world. And I was like, what the heck was I saying about this? I think it's just the idea of getting a little bit of a neat nudge of the needle to be able to, people can project onto the space I occupy, they project onto the space you occupy, but we don't have to own any of those
No,
projections.
no, no.
Like somebody
Mm,
wants to
no.
look at a teacher or a guru or something, or somebody who's channeled this kind of awareness of what the lottery numbers are going to be. What horse is going to
Mm.
win this race? Fine, but doesn't necessarily define you. And who are you is what we've really been trying to extract. I heard that at the very beginning.
Mm.
Am I? And the Krishnamurti question is it Krishnamurti or was it Ramana?
Ramona.
Who
Yeah,
said, who is asking the question?
that's right. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's I think that was a kind of Leela as well, that I was writing like this stuff, who am I stuff, after
Mhm.
my retreat, because I thought, I think I'm going to write this down because it might be, good to remember this now that I'm getting normal, and I don't want to forget it. I hadn't completely changed. I mean, I wasn't the same as I was before the retreat, but after it, I mean, it was almost like I was in denial as well, because I didn't have a place to be. I wasn't in India or, somewhere where people like that who'd had that kind of experience were accepted.
I see.
I was in a working class town in the north of England, where people just thought people like me were either posh or mad, that read them kind of books. So it was, so and it was a very kind of not. I don't know. It just wasn't in that paradigm. Do you know what I mean? I was in the wrong paradigm, and I've sought out some Tibetan lamas again.
Yeah, good.
And they said to me, "You've been in the Bardo for 4 years," and I said, "What the heck is a Bardo?"
Oh, yeah.
And they said it's like the world between the living and the dead. And I said, "Right." And I said, "Well, how come I've come back?" And they said, "Oh no, you're still there." And I just kind of like, I've talked to quite a few lamas, and they always say that I went in the Bardo for a few years, and kind of got some information and knowledge and whatever, and brought it back into the Sioux person. You know what I mean? And so it was just, I think that I can make sense of that in one way, because when I looked into that, what is the Bardo? They said that they'd had, when monks go on these long retreats, they often go into the Bardo, and
Hmm.
that's the world between like the living, the dead, the Akashic records,
Wow.
and it made sense to me because I thought, that's why I'm psychic.
Well,
Because I don't really think that psychic is a good word anymore. because I think psychics are making it into a thing. Oh, I'm a psychic person. But having an experience like that, where you're going into like time in the future and past, I was time traveling, going to different countries. I knew what was on the news before it came out.
Ah,
Um, you know what I mean? I'd say, oh, such a country was invaded last night. And it was like, how the hell could you know?
it's a good question.
I've lost you now, I think.
Have you lost me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Ah, too bad. But it's okay. I just saw a
where,
picture
you,
apparently
where have
taking
you
a view.
gone now? You disappeared.
Yeah, well, I'll be back maybe if everything works out. I don't know. Maybe it was God's will. I always think that if God is omniscient and omnipotent, then everything that happens has to, and everything that doesn't.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
I have no
yeah.
idea really, because of course, I don't. My idea too is that Gnostic theism, where I know that gods and goddesses exist as concepts in my mind and minds of other
Mhm,
people that I talk to.
mhm,
I'm
mhm.
not so certain they exist elsewhere, and I'm always skeptical. But what you talked about the Bardo, and it reminded me of Mayor Baba's experience when Hazrat Babajan gave him that kiss on the forehead. Are you familiar
Okay.
with that time in
Yeah,
his life?
yeah, yeah, I am. Yes, I read
It was
that. Yes.
9 months of being out of his head, just not sleeping in this state of ultimate bliss, just not of this
Yeah,
world anymore,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Not in
Mhm.
this world anymore, really. But then, he goes to see Sai Baba, who sends him to Apasni Maharaj, who throws the stone that hits him right where Babajan kissed him,
Yes.
both
Yeah.
blood, and restores him to ordinary consciousness
Mhm.
at
Mhm.
the same time as remaining in the state of bliss. And I just love that. Of course, and then all the physical ailments